What do you do with new topics and issues in the health and wellness world? When this new thing comes out, for example, how do you process through whether it's good for you or not good for you? How do you think about it? Ask good questions about it. My husband, Ryan, is joining me on today's episode, and that's exactly what we are going to do today. We're going to take 3 trending topics in the health and wellness world and talk through them. Now, of course, you don't have to have the same reactions and opinions to these things that we do. But we do hope that it gives you a framework and an idea of how to walk through these issues when they come up. The 3 topics that we're going to talk about in this episode are Ozempic, Apeel, and Cancer Awareness Months. So I know that as you listen, you're going to find that at least one of these topics is going to surprise you and how much it actually applies to your life. If you find this episode helpful, we would really appreciate your 5-star review on Spotify or Apple. But our most favorite thing is when you share this episode with a friend. Okay, babe, before we get started on our real topics, I think you should share your idea for a topic that I rejected.
So I was watching this show on Apple TV the other day called Swan Song.
He was watching by himself because it's not my show, guys.
And no spoilers or anything, but the show is about this man who has a terminal illness, and there's this cloning technology that he can just basically replace himself with a new version of himself. It's not like he transfers his consciousness or whatever, but it's like a new version of himself that they clone, and then he just downloads all his memories. And I was asking Melisha, if you had an option to do that, would you want me to do that? And she just wasn't interested in talking about that whatsoever. I thought it was going to be a really interesting conversation, but
absolutely not.
She shot me down. I don't know why.
If you guys want Ryan to do an episode on that, let us know.
Well,
you can do a solo appearance.
I know what I talk about. It's not real.
Okay, so our real topics today are Ozempic, Apeel, and Cancer Research Awareness Months, to put it generally.
In general.
Yeah, so let's start with Ozempic, and you kind of give us a background on what it is and why we're talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think Ozempic is pretty well known as a name for a drug. I didn't really know a lot about it, but I'm an avid listener of the New York Times daily podcast. I just like to be up to date on stuff, and they did an episode of it recently, and it really caught my attention because it was just interesting, and this is what we talk about.
Yeah, and we're going to reference that a few times, so we'll put the link to that in the show notes for you guys.
Yeah. So Ozempic, as I understand it, is a class of medications called GLP-1, which has a definition that I don't want to give right now as far as what it stands for, but
right.
The class
we
of drugs.
Can't pronounce.
Right. So Ozempic is actually a drug within that class, but it's now kind of referenced as a general broad umbrella term to include most of those types of medications. But Ozempic itself was originally an injectable diabetes drug, is what it was originally approved for, and that it can lower blood sugar, spur insulin production, but it also slows digestion and makes you feel fuller for longer, which means that weight loss is a common side effect.
Right. So what happened to make this kind of controversial?
So because researchers noticed that one of the side effects of this drug was weight loss, then it became a lot more common for people just to not just use this for diabetic purposes, but now it became more popular for weight loss specifically, although that's not what the drug was intended to be used for in the first place.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting to learn about how this drug became so popular as far as the advertising and the people that were kind of talking about it. Do you remember that part? What?
Yeah.
Okay. So the drug was, the drug has been used for quite a number of years, but it has become popular in the last few years because of the advertising done for the drug. Even on social media, there's paid advertising, but then there's advertising that's just happened by word of mouth as people have taken the drug and lost weight. They're sharing all their before and after pictures. Even celebrities have used it and talked about it. And I think Elon Musk talked about it on Twitter or something one time. And so it's just kind of become this viral term that it's gotten a lot of attention.
Right. Well, I think Elon was using Wegovy, so kind of a sister drug to that. But yeah, it's I did remember that part of the podcast. So it was talking about how on TikTok it became kind of a detective game to figure out which celebrities were using drugs like this in their weight loss. So just to give you a idea of like how popular this drug has been over the years, I thought it would be interesting to see like the sales numbers is just for Ozempic. So in 2017, the very first year the drug was approved, 273 million in annual sales. In 2023, this year is projected to reach 12.5 billion in annual sales, so a huge jump.
Yeah.
And in 2029, it's expected to reach 17 billion in annual sales.
That's insane.
Yeah, that's a huge growth number.
Wow. Okay. So obviously, this is something that somebody's making a lot of money off of.
Right? Yeah.
So to me, I don't know. So when I think about this, my perspective on pharmaceutical drugs is that they should be used as a last resort. I'm not against someone using pharmaceutical drugs when they are absolutely necessary. I don't think they should be anyone's first choice because there is no safe pharmaceutical drug. Even over-the-counter medications like Tylenol have side effects. So when you think about a drug like this, everyone is talking about the weight loss benefits and no one is talking about the side effects, the long-term side effects. And honestly, we don't even know what those are because this is a new drug and there are no long-term safety studies. That's a huge red flag for me.
Yeah. And not just that, but the way the drug works is that most of the people who have gotten off the drug have gained the weight back. Right, so there weren't any for a lot of patients there weren't any lifestyle changes to accompany the taking of the drug because the drug makes you feel fuller longer. You don't feel like eating, so there's less food consumption. It slows digestion, so there's less food consumption. But as far as like lifestyle changes, unless you're doing that just intentionally yourself while on the drug, there's no change in your lifestyle. So if you end up getting off the drug, then typically like with a lot of other like fad diets with this time it's medication, you'll just gain the weight right back.
Right. So this is my problem with this issue is it's not addressing the root cause. And so if you've hung out here at the Daily Wellness Podcast very long, you know that we want people to find true healing. And if you're just taking a drug to solve your type 2 diabetes issue or your obesity issue, you're not really solving your problem. You are putting a Band-Aid over your problem. And so if you stop taking the medication, you could go right back to those old lifestyle habits that you had, or, your body can go back to the normal state of the unhealthy position that it was in before.
So what do you think about the drug's first intended use? So that it was first intended for use with patients with type 2 diabetes. What do you think about its use for that specific purpose, not just like recreational weight loss?
Right. Well, my first question would be, why does that person have type 2 diabetes? Right. Type 2 diabetes means that it's lifestyle diabetes. It's something that was caused by the person's lifestyle. And so my preference would be, if that was me, I would try to fix my lifestyle issues that cause the diabetes and not take a medication to fix the diabetes, because it's not really fixing it. It's just masking it. So that's my one problem with it, is that people aren't learning the real life skills and healthy habits that they need to be healthy in the long term. Like, what if this medication isn't available at some point, or they can't afford it at some point, the insurance doesn't cover it and they have to go off of it? Then what do?
Yeah. Speaking of cost, because it may be covered by some people's insurance plans, it may not cost as much, but if it happens to be out of pocket, it's about $1,000 per month for this specific drug or these types of drugs. So it's quite a bit, right?
Right. If someone is in a really bad health situation, it may not be bad for them to take it with a short-term goal in mind, like for them to have a kickstart on getting into a healthier place. But I wouldn't want someone to use it for a long period of time because there are no health studies on it long-term, and because it's just not teaching them the healthy habits that they really should have.
One other thing that they brought up in this episode, which I thought was interesting, was we've been making a lot of progress as a culture towards more positive body image concepts. And so one thing that this kind of Ozempic craze or this weight loss craze through drugs is it's putting the emphasis back on being skinny as like the ideal. What do you think about that?
I think there's a a balance between having a healthy body image and actually being healthy. Like, I want people to love the bodies that they are in, to appreciate their bodies, and to be happy and confident in the bodies that they have, no matter what size they are, no matter how much they weigh. But at the same time, obesity is a health crisis in America, and we really can't just put a body image sticker over it and say, love your body however it looks, even if it's really unhealthy. And, you know, there's a balance between loving your body and also prioritizing health.
Yeah. And you can be, like we've mentioned before on the show or talked about before, you can be skinny, you know, quote unquote skinny as a cultural standard, and still be unhealthy.
Absolutely. Which could be a lot of people taking Ozempic, right? They got a lot of weight loss results from it, but they're still actually unhealthy. Maybe they still have heart issues. Maybe their hormones are still crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things that this could kind of cover up and cause even more problems for people in the long term.
So the second topic that we're going to talk about is this thing called Apeel, and I have zero clue what this is. So you brought it up as like a thing we might talk about, and I said, what is that? So
yeah,
what is that?
That's interesting to me because I've been hearing about it for a while, and I haven't talked about it a lot on my social media or anything because I just wanted to learn more about it before I had an opinion on it. So this is what Apeel is. Apeel is a new technology that is sprayed or applied to produce, so your fruits and vegetables, before they go to the grocery store, to prolong freshness, to keep food fresher for longer, to prevent spoilage, and kind of prevents food waste. So they're marketing it as a sustainable, environmentally friendly thing that they are doing to our food.
Okay. I mean, sounds great. What could be the problems with that?
Right? I know. Like, and that's what they want you to think, of course. Like, this is a great solution to lower the food waste problem, to make sure that people who don't have a lot of access to fresh food in their area can, you know, have fresh food because it's going to stay fresher longer. So when they get it, it's still going to be quote unquote fresh.
Right. And this is a chemical? That's what it is?
Okay. So this is interesting. So the ingredients are a little proprietary, which means we really don't know exactly 100% for sure what all of the ingredients are. We do know some of the ingredients. And there's two versions of Apeel. One is for organic produce and one is for non-organic or conventional produce. So the conventional produce version of this is basically mono and diglycerides, which are fatty acids derived from quote unquote plant oils. So if you know me, if you've been following any of my podcast info or social media info, you know that I'm really picky about what oils I use.
It's plant oils. I mean, how bad could it be, right?
Right. So there are a lot of unhealthy plant oils, and we try to avoid them in our home. We try to not buy processed food with, you know, unhealthy seed oils, plant oils. We try to not buy cooking oils that are unhealthy, and that is exactly the kind of oils that are being used on Apeel. So now it's the unhealthy oils that we're trying to avoid by not eating processed food and not purchasing those oils to cook in are being sprayed all over the healthy fruits and vegetables in the grocery store. And then the organic version of it is made with citric acid as its active ingredient and mono and diglycerides as inactive ingredients, because if you're in the organic world, you can't use mono and diglycerides as an active ingredient. Another controversial issue as far as ingredients, in the original submission that Apeel gave to the FDA, there were heavy metals listed in the submission. So there are heavy metals present in this Apeel product. Yeah. And so that was in the original early days of Apeel. And since then, because they have grown so much, because they're producing so much, they're sourcing their products a little bit differently. And it appears that there are less heavy metals now than there were originally, but there are still some, which I really don't like.
Right.
I don't want any heavy metals on my broccoli.
Right. Yeah, that's not why you buy broccoli, huh?
Yeah. Another issue with this is that it's impossible to wash off. So this isn't the first coating that people have put on our food. So if you go to the grocery store and you don't know that there are apples with wax on them, then you have been blind. right? Like that there isn't oranges with some kind of coating on it, then you have not really paid attention. So this isn't the first coating, right? So we can't pretend like this is the first time this has ever happened. But the fact that it's like this proprietary mystery ingredient list is concerning. And the fact that you cannot wash it off, like they have intentionally made it to where it is stuck on there and you can't get it off. Like that, I don't like that.
That's concerning. We wash like most or all of our fruits and vegetables that we end up eating. So that gives us a little bit of comfort to know that we're washing off some of what was put on. But yeah, that's concerning that we can't get this stuff off.
Yep. And again, like we're talking about an issue that has like no long-term safety studies. We don't know how this is going to affect us long-term. If there are health issues, we don't know.
Yeah. So what can we do at this point, just as normal to everyday consumers?
Right. Well, I mean, the best way that you can eat produce is to grow it yourself. Second best way would be to buy it from a local farmer. Third best way would be to buy in-season organic produce from your grocery store. And the only way that you're going to know if the food in your grocery store has an Apeel coating or not is to really ask your produce manager. They are supposed to let you know in some way, but that has shown up differently in different stores. Some stores have just put a random poster in one spot saying, hey, there's a new coating on some of our produce. And some of the produce might have a sticker on it that says Apeel. So you're really only going to know if you ask your produce manager. And you can talk to your produce manager and let them know that you really don't want Apeel in your grocery store as well. And that might make a difference. But also, I just want to say that just because there is this new Apeel coating, we shouldn't stop eating fruits and vegetables, right? So the problem with the Apeel coating is mainly the use of unhealthy plant or seed oils, which if you're trying to live a healthy life, you should be avoiding those. But if you're already eating processed food, if you're eating ice cream with mono and diglycerides already, all of those things, then this coating is the least of your concerns, right? And it's still better to eat fruits and vegetables than not eat fruits and vegetables. So if you want to try and avoid Apeel at all costs, the only places I know that have said they are absolutely not going to accept any produce with Apeel are Natural Grocers and Azure Standard. Those are the only two places I've heard of. The other grocery stores that I know are using produce with Apeel already are Target, Price Cutter, Walmart, Costco, Trader Joe's, Sprouts, Kroger, and tons of, smaller grocery store chains. So it's just about everywhere already.
Yeah. Hey, Melisha.
Yeah.
So it's almost October, and you know what that means?
I think I do.
It means all of the NFL football games are going to feature teams wearing random pink things.
That's right.
And why is that?
Even high school teams have started wearing pink things. All the pink shows up in October.
Yeah, is that because of Barbie?
Oh my gosh, it could be. Like Barbie's so popular right now, but as you guys know, everyone starts wearing pink in October because of Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
That's right.
I don't know how to word this properly. I get really annoyed during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but it's not for the reasons you might think.
Yeah. Why do you get annoyed?
It's not because football players wear pink. I don't care what the football players wear. It's really the whole approach to Cancer Awareness Months in general. Just to make it clear, I am very much in support of people becoming more aware of cancer and the amount of people that have cancer. I mean, if you guys don't know, 1 in 3 people have cancer, and we are trending toward 1 in 2 people. Like, it's insane.
Mm-hmm. I think we're all pretty aware, and it's hard to not be aware. I mean, we've got friends and family, that have cancer or have had cancer and are in remission. I've lost a family member to cancer, breast cancer specifically. So I think we're all pretty aware of the devastating effects of cancer.
Yep. I hear about a cancer diagnosis of a friend or a friend of a friend, I would say every other week. Not exaggerating.
Yeah. It's pretty sobering.
It is. And so I am very much in support of people becoming more aware of the very real problem that cancer is. And it is an epidemic at this point in our world. especially in our country,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yep.
And so I want to talk about this in this trending health issue episode because this breast cancer awareness month isn't that new of a thing. We've been doing this for really a long time, but it has become a trend to then add an awareness month for every other type of cancer. I looked it up, and September has 6 different cancer awareness issues for its month alone. So we're just, adding an awareness month for every kind of cancer as they become more prevalent.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Why do you think there's so many awareness months?
So one of my issues we'll just take the breast cancer awareness thing as an example and kind of talk through that because everyone is really familiar with it. People are, I would say organizations are really pushing breast cancer awareness for a couple of reasons. Their goals are, one, to raise money. So they want to raise money for breast cancer research, and they also want to bring awareness to breast cancer. And the way that they do that, as far as, saying, hey, this is a real issue for women, what can you do about it? Their answer is go have a mammogram.
Yeah, that's it. That's like the one thing they say as far as prevention.
Right. So in my mind, this breast cancer awareness month is like the Valentine's Day of the health world, right?
What do you mean by that?
Well, Valentine's Day, as we all know now as adults, is really a marketing scheme to get you to spend money on, the idea of love.
the flowers that I buy you, like,
I appreciate
they're
them.
double what they would have been any other time of the
I
year.
appreciate them very much, but most people hate Valentine's Day. I wouldn't say most. Some people hate Valentine's Day because it forces you, to kind of artificially focus on love when you really should be, for example, focused on loving your spouse 365 days a year. So it's a little bit of a parallel with this is we are now putting all of our attention on breast cancer awareness for 1 month out of the year. And that drives me insane because that really does nothing to help people prevent breast cancer or heal their breast cancer. Right. So breast cancer should be something that we focus on 365 days a year. It is not something that you are going to prevent by getting your mammogram once a year or donating to an organization once a year.
Where do you think most of those funds that the organizations raise, where does that go?
I should do more research on that, but I have heard so many people, even my friends who have been through breast cancer that have, really thought about this issue. They have not been happy at all with how money has been spent. I mean, you can do, like I said, you can do a lot of research in this area. You can look up the Susan G. Komen Foundation, the Breast Cancer Research Foundation. There have been a lot of kind of scandalous things that have gone on, questionable things that have gone on about how that money is really spent. And so breast cancer awareness is used a little bit as a pink washing event for these research organizations to, again, like gain money for quote unquote research. But, they might be using it for research, but do I agree with the way that they're doing research or how that research is being used?
Yeah. I mean, it's probably hard to get some of this information transparently, but again, we don't have the information. But my assumption is that a lot of the money or the money that is going into research is mostly aimed at what pharmaceuticals can we discover or develop for the cure or treatment of breast cancer. It's not so much in the prevention.
Right.
And it's not really in any kind of like lifestyle or any other pharmaceutical alternative research. It is mostly plowed into what kind of new drugs can we develop.
Right. What kind of drugs can we develop that pharmaceutical companies can sell and make money off of?
Right. So we're subsidizing the research and the profits of pharmaceutical companies.
Because in my mind, if people were truly concerned about preventing breast cancer or helping women with breast cancer, then they would be talking about the solutions that we already have. They would be talking about lifestyle changes that women need to make to prevent breast cancer, such as, not using toxic products in their home, not using toxic personal care products, eating a healthy diet, exercising regularly, lowering stress in their life. All of these things contribute to a healthy life that would help you prevent breast cancer. And those things are not talked about at all in Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Right. They don't make anybody any money.
Right. And then if you want to talk about it on the healing side, there are tons of modalities outside of our conventional Western approach to cancer that can help you heal from cancer that no one talks about. So it's frustrating for me on a lot of different levels. And I wanted to just highlight it in this episode because it is a very trendy thing for there to be an awareness month for every type of cancer now. And again, I'm not necessarily against that idea. What I'm against is that it stops at that it stops at, let's talk about it once a month. Let's encourage women to get a mammogram once a year. And that's going to be the solution to all our problems.
Yeah. You have a couple interesting resources around the topic of cancer and breast cancer. You had an interview in a podcast episode with a thermographer, and so I thought that was a good resource that we could recommend.
Yep. So one thing that I have been doing as part of my breast health care throughout the year is getting a thermogram, which is a heat scan of my body twice a year. And so I interviewed the thermographer that I actually use, and she talks a lot about breast health and gives us some great tips in that episode. So we can link that in the show notes.
Yep. And there's also a good article that we posted on our website that talks about the same things.
Yep. If you want to start thinking about your breast health 365 days a year, then you should read the blog article that I posted and start implementing some of those tips. You guys let us know if you enjoyed this format of podcast.
Yeah, we're just chatting away all the things that we're thinking about, at least.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a behind the scenes to what our life is like at home. Sometimes things will come up on a podcast that Ryan heard about, or I'll hear about something from someone that I, typically learn from, and we'll just discuss these things and how it applies to our family and what decision we want to make, concerning that thing. So a little bit of behind the scenes with this episode.
And if you would, because I can't get the discussion going at home, you let me know if you would clone yourself and replace yourself on behalf of your loved ones. Let me know about that.